Michael Vick says he wished he had a father figure before he got into all of the dog fighting stuff and some of his bad decisions. So we're gonna react to this clip from this podcast. I think it was from the football player Tyreek Evans podcast, where Michael Vick opens up a little bit about what things that could have really prevented him from going on a trajectory that he went on with some of the things with the dog fighting. So we're gonna get into that. But before we do, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's check this out.
I,
Yeah.
I, was
I
just,
wish I had a father figure, somebody in my life, like, and I did too for the most part, but not to a point where somebody was like, yo, man, you can really screw all this up.
Right.
Ain't nobody came and said, bro, you can screw all this up, bro.
How much they took?
Like 8 million, bro. But story for another day, yeah.
Yeah, story for another
Yeah,
day,
when
right?
I was trying to do the right thing, I entrusted somebody who came with a great plan, and if it would have materialized, it would have just been like for generations. And so I guess once I started going through my case and what I was going through, they felt like they could just like dip off and not, once I went to prison, I can't call out. So
Yeah, so that's crazy. I'll start us off with this one. So
Okay.
when I saw this clip, I was just thinking about how, yeah, in some ways, you look at it as like did you really need like a father figure to tell you that that was wrong, or that maybe that's not a good idea for you as one of the top NFL players, making representing all black people, unfortunately, because you're at a time where there weren't many black quarterbacks and things like that. You're one of the top quarterbacks, one of the most exciting players in the NFL. You're representing Atlanta and all of that. But it's one of those things where I empathize for him, because I think, and this is my perspective, and I want your thoughts on it. I think where he is coming from is he needed people that he could go to. Because he was successful, because he was able to achieve what he achieved as an NFL player, black quarterback. I think what happens with a lot of people is they get to a point where they don't have anybody. They're the man that they need. Someone else to be. They end up being that man because they're in a position where there's just not a lot of men that can speak up. So he's the one making decisions. He's paying people's bills. He's helping people in their situation. He's the provider in a lot of the case in this. And I think what happened is, and where he's coming from is, he needed that person that could tell him, no, this isn't it. You need to stop this immediately. No, you don't need to get into this. He needed somebody that could have that place with him, I think, because not necessarily because there weren't any men. Like, I'm sure he's had coaches. I'm sure he's had people involved in, the different leagues that he played in, whether it was high school, college, all of that. He's had probably male figures, but somebody that could have played like that father figure role that could have helped him, guide him through and catch some of these things before he even got to it. I think that's the place that he's coming from. And I think that's an important lesson. And one of the things that we like to discuss is, building healthy families and the importance of the nuclear family, having a mother and a father, because there are certain things that I think a mother, and women have done a great job, especially in the black community, despite the dysfunction, despite the fact that we don't have in a lot of these houses that father. They've had to kind of fill in for that role, unfortunately, but a woman can never completely fill in for that. And I know from personal experience, they can never fully fill in for it. And so he, being in a situation where now he's the leader of the family, he's the leader of his whole family, cousins, nephews, all of that stuff. And it's like, yeah, he may not have it all together in certain things, or he might see something as a way to make money, like something, whatever, and then go with it. And then next thing you know, he's the fall guy for it. He has to fall for it, losing out $8 million as a result. And he's saying, like, man, like, I needed the right role model, father figure in my life that would have helped me to not even look into this place to like make money, because he like you said, he lost $8 million off of it. It didn't benefit him. And then all the contracts that he could have gotten, or a contract that he could have gotten in the meantime, he fortunately was able, after he served his time, to come back and get a big time contract and kind of pick up from where he left off. But at that point, he was at the end of his career. So what do you think about that, with that perspective?
Man. Yeah, I was really paying attention as he was talking. And so he was saying he wished he had father figure or somebody influential to him. And he's like, well, I did have some, right? And so because he like backtracked a little bit. And what I think is important is we typically have someone telling us, the right thing. Now, like you said, when we have all that money and things, we're listening to our yes men. We're listening to.
Yeah.
And the person who he could have really looked at with the most respect, they could have been a yes man, or, like, you know what? You know what you're doing? You're making this money. Like, you started here and you got here. So he pumping them up, things like that. And when we do that, we sometimes, just use our money any type of way, spend it, things like that, because we think, and I know a lot of people, even who don't have money like that, I'm always going to be able to get some more money. I'm
Right.
always going to be able to find something. That's not really my word right now. So, it just seems like out of ignorance, he took part in this, dogfight and things like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm like a man, woman, pastor, anybody. I don't believe that nobody who knew didn't tell him, like, you need to stop this. And I'm going to be real with y'all. Me, I didn't grow up with a pet in the household. I did not. No dogs running around, things like that. It's just not me. But there is some huge pet lovers and people who got money. We look at all these organizations and things like that. I'm not going to go into all those details. But you didn't think that you sitting up here causing these animals that some people pay for, living these lavish lives, right? Living better than us, like, period. And you didn't think people was going to have a problem with it, you in the public eye, all the things like you said, all the accolades. I'm just like, man, hindsight must be really 2020. Like, yes, those things can mess up your money when you have a bigger stage. Those mistakes and stuff can mess up your money, can mess up your situation. So, I definitely feel sorry for the bro. I felt sorry when it happened. It's like, man, over that, like, dang it. Putting away, and like you said, his career, like, people know him. Some people, younger people especially, know him more for the dog fights than they do his whole career. Just being honest, like, oh, you're talking about, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, it's a bigger conversation. We completely agree. Having those father figures are important. Hopefully, they continue to steer you in the right way, even when you have the money. Because I'm thinking about people who had the father figures, actually. It wasn't perfect. There was arguments, things like that. I'm thinking about, like, Whitney Houston, all different. He was in her pockets. He sued her before he got sick and died. So I'm just saying, we need not only father figures, but people of wisdom around us who want the best for us. Not just money, because money is not it, and you can lose it just like that. But who's giving us that wisdom, who's seeing the long term, things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess just to close, it seems to me like just reading this, again, it's a short clip, short conversation. He probably got a lot of different things he could reflect on and he would do differently.
For sure.
I think where he's coming from ultimately is at some point earlier in the process of him becoming Michael Vick that everybody knew in Atlanta. I think his whole thing is like, if I had somebody earlier in that process that I looked to in that type of way, then I would have had, it comes down to accountability, I think. He's like, man, if I had that extra layer of accountability, I wouldn't even think, like, he knew it was illegal. He knew that there was huge consequences, but you know what? He had power. He had money. He was beloved by the city. I mean, black people were going crazy over him. The NFL, he took the NFL by storm, but he thought he was untouchable. He thought he was able to get away with whatever because he had that power. He had that name. He just thought that was nothing that he wouldn't get caught for this and his name wouldn't get attached to it. Well, it did, unfortunately. And a lot of people in powerful positions, they assume that they could just do whatever they want. We see it in politics. We see it in sports. We see it in all different sectors of life. We see it in any institution. What do they say? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. We've heard these different phrases. And that's what I think transpired. And I think having that accountability at an earlier stage would have made a difference. But it's great that he can tell this story and talk about that aspect of fatherhood, because I do think he said father figure. I would just go a step further and saying actually having my father in my life would have been a difference maker of sorts. And you never know where life would take you. Maybe he doesn't become the NFL player he is if he has a father. You never know where life takes you, so you never want to go back too far in the regret. It's easier just to appreciate who you've become, and I think he's become a better person from that mistake that he made then. And so those are our thoughts on this. We hope you all enjoyed this. But before you head out, do us a quick favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell.